So now coming back to the question, there are a lot of good institutions in India. You can say IITs are there are IICs there, many central universities are there. Then why should we go and study abroad? That's the major question. Why should we go and study abroad? It's not like there are white people, I want to get friendship with white people, so I want to go there. It's not like I also wanted, I always wanted to see that movie destination. I have seen the Hollywood movies, they are very beautiful destination outside in Europe and UK, so I want to get there and explore at the America. It's not like that. You should have a clear motive in your mind. Why do you want to do an international PhD? And I will give you the six common reasons which are there to do an international PhD. The first is better facilities. If you see in India, we have a huge population, we have limited resources, but the number of people are there. So in PhD, or if any of us has done PhD, they will agree with me that people are there and resources are less, so you have a very limited access to the facility when you are in India. While in abroad, you can say the facilities are more and the number of people working is very less, so you can easily access any of the facility which you might require for your research. Second is better infrastructure. Even if you're in an IIT, you can, so there is a great problem of sitting problem. They don't have space to put their like machines. In abroad, wherever you are going to abroad, you will definitely see that the infrastructure is very good. How the infrastructure is very good? They have very big buildings, very good space. So I was in Germany, and you will be amazed to see that when I was in Germany, I was given a separate cabin. Yes, even a PhD student, two PhD students share a cabin. If the if the resources is limited, they two share one, else there is one person getting one cabin. But here in one room there are 10 to 15 PhD scholars, because the infrastructure is limited. Certainly the point is money. If you are in India, your fellowship will be, if you are in JRF, then your fellowship will be around 31,000. That's the certain thing. And when you get SRF, you will get 35,000. And considering you are living in Delhi, you cannot save much. While if you are in Europe or UK or Canada or US or Australia, depending on the country, you will get a decent amount. Let me tell you, like if you are in Europe, the average fellowship for a PhD is 1500 euros. So you can definitely save 7 to 800 euros. Say minimum, at minimum, you can save like 600 euros. So if you can save 600 euros, it will be in India at around like I think 50,000 bucks. So you can literally save good money and you will have a better life there. If you see, the quality of life in Western countries that are developed is very good in comparison to India. So if you go for a PhD, you can definitely have a happening life. You can go for the parties and other things. Coming to the next point is healthy work environment. Like in India, the resources are very limited, so we don't get much access. So because of that, sometimes we have to work on Sundays, we have to work on Saturdays. Sometimes your guide is not good, he's forcing you to come on Saturdays, weekends, every day, on even on holidays. But the work environment, the quality of work and life is well maintained in developed countries or in the foreign countries. So the work environment, you are given due importance. You are treated as a good human. You are treated as a human. Here, like if you are a PhD scholar, there is not much importance given to you, but there you will get a due importance. And the last point, why should you go for a international PhDs? Enhance social status. I don't know, like it's a human psychology. I don't believe in this, but many people believe, like I have been to US, US return, that kind of return. But if you are in your neighborhood in India, like where IITs are treated as a very big thing, if you say someone like my grandkid or my kid is doing PhD from US, Canada, then they will definitely, you will have an enhanced social status. And also, if you are coming back to the India by doing some great PhD in US, then whosoever university you're applying, you will get a preference over others. So basically, these are the six main reasons why you should go for an international PhD. But the main reason which I didn't highlight is this. If you study the report, which is published in 2018, and now it is also true, the UGC has accepted it, for PhD holders from top 500 world universities, they are eligible for direct recruitment as an assistant professor. So if you are done as a PhD from a very highly recognized and reputed institution which comes under top 500, then there is a direct way of recruitment as assistant professor. Okay, so I'm talking about the top 500 universities, but unfortunately, there are only 8 universities of India which comes under the top 500 according to the QS World Ranking. So there are IIT Bombay, ISC, IIT Delhi, Madras, Kanpur, Kharagpur, Guwahati, and Roorkee. So either if you are doing your PhD from these 7 or 8 institutions, then it's certainly good. But it's not easy because they have a limited space. So everyone cannot go in these top elite Ivy League universities in India. So you have to go abroad and see where else I can go and do my PhD, which comes under the top 500 universities. Now, the big question is, where should you go to do your PhD? Because I told you there are a lot of universities and a lot of places. But where should I go? How should I choose my place where like to do a PhD? I will not go to Africa. Certainly, I will not go to. I'll not go to the Central Asia. I'll not go to the China. I'll not go to the Russia. I know people are going to China, but I don't think they should go. I will not go to the Latin America to do my PhD, or Indonesia or Bali or Malaysia. People are going to everywhere. If you see, people can go anywhere they want. But for my recommendation, or as far as my knowledge is concerned, where you should go depends on what you want to do in PhD. The first thing is you want to do it in top 500. And if you see this chart, the top 500 universities, the maximum number of universities which falls under the top 500 regime, they comes from either from the US, the maximum comes from the UK or the Europe, and Australia, Canada. So as far as my recommendation is concerned, I will definitely want you to go for a PhD in either Europe, UK, Canada, US, Australia, Japan, New Zealand. Now coming to the things, when to start, like the major question that people have in your mind, like many of you will be doing their masters, some of them would have done the master, some of them, like some of you might have done their masters 3 years ago, some of you might be in the first or second year of the PhD, but they are not satisfied, they want to go abroad. So what is the right time to start to apply for a PhD, international PhD? And the answer is, there is no perfect time. एक कहावत है हिंदी में, जब जागो तभी सवेरा. So whenever you make your mind like, nah, I want to go for an international PhD now, then is the right time you should start applying. So it doesn't matter, as early you can start from the 4th semester of your masters. You can start whenever you are going to finish. Until you are finished with your masters, no one will entertain you. But when you are in 4th semester of master, or you have submitted your thesis for your master dissertation, you are eligible to apply. So as soon as you are completed your masters, you can start applying. After completion of master, you can apply. After 3 year, 4 year, 5 year of the masters, you can apply. If you are in pure PhD, then also you can apply. Even if you are 30 years old, you can apply. So whenever you are ready, you can apply for the international PhD. Now coming to the things, okay sir, I have made my mind, I want to apply for an international PhD, but how? Similarly, whenever you are going to start driving a vehicle, you need to have a driving license. Certainly, if you want to do a PhD, you should have to prepare a couple of documents which are required. And these documents I have mentioned in my 5 of the videos. So this is my YouTube channel. If you go to my YouTube channel, you will see there are many videos I have posted like about the documents required for an international PhD. So you can go and watch this playlist, international PhD playlist, and then you will find a lot of videos which will tell you the number of documents required for your PhD application. But to be very, in a generalized way, I can tell you the first thing is required is your mark sheet, that is you have completed your masters. Second thing is your curriculum vitae, CV. Then statement of purpose, why you want to do PhD in a particular topic with a particular guide. And then if you are applying for an English speaking country, just like US, Canada, Australia, then you have to get an English language test. There are 2 types of English language test, which is IELTS, IELTS, and TOEFL, TOEFL, TOEFL. So you should apply for these tests. These tests. I have made a certain specific video about GRE, IELTS, and TOEFL. You should take these tests, qualify these tests, then only they will take you in their PhD program. Because these are English speaking countries, they want you to be well versed with the English language, because all of the PhD is done in English language only. Germany, France, Italy, Switzerland, they don't ask you for an English language test. They don't want you for English language because they also don't speak in English. But they also don't want you to produce a German language test or French language test. So if you are in Europe, there is no need for any language test. In India, there is a process called as we go for JRF. When we are awarded to JRF, then we keep applying to the directly to the universities, and then the universities call us for the interview, and we choose guide and we do PhD. But this is not the standard process in many countries. In like Western countries or the countries I have mentioned, you have to directly approach to the professor first. You have to approach to the professor that the professor, I have seen your work is really good, I want to do my PhD with you. And then the professor will take you an interview, and then interview will be virtual like Zoom or anything. They will call, if they find you a good match, then they will call you for an interview. When both of you are convinced, then you will apply for the PhD. It is just opposite in Western countries. You have to first approach to the professor. When you will approach to the professor and everything sorted out, then only you can apply for the PhD in a formal way to the university channel. So the university comes later, the professor comes first. Now coming to the most important documents from which a person, like if hundreds of people, so, last time I told with Martin, so he said he received around 100 emails of PhD in 1 month, on which the call is based are these three main documents: CV, SOP, and email. First of all, they will see the email, how better your email is written. You have to write a best email to the professor so that you can convince them, right, I am the best guy, you should call me for the interview. After seeing your email, if the email is interesting enough, then he will go and see your CV. He will see how good your CV is, how well matched your CV is. So you have to work on three major documents. The first important document is you have to write a good email, you have to write a good CV, and then you have to make an interesting SOP. SOP is a later things which comes when you are going for a formal application, but CV and email are the first thing which you send to the professor, and on which he judges whether you should be invited for the interview or not. So these two documents should be well written and well made. So I have made video on all of three: how to write an impressive CV, how to write an email to the professor, and how to write a statement of purpose. So you can go and watch each of them so that you will get a better idea how should I make my email and how should I make my CV accordingly. And these are very common things I get to know about, like on my Instagram. I invite, if you have any doubt, you can definitely send me a message on the Instagram. So the very common mistakes are there. People make very common mistakes and they don't get a reply. The main reasons why you're not getting any response, like you have sent email to 100 of the professors, but none of them has written back to you, okay, this your profile is interesting, we should go for an interview. There are very limited reasons, but people don't work on it. And those limited reasons are poorly written CV, SOP, and email. If your CV is just very casual, your email is very casual, none will ask you to come for an interview. The second thing is low profile inexperience. If you have no experience, if you have no skills, why would anyone call you for the interview? Why would they want to take you as a PhD scholar? There are hundreds of applications. You have to stand out of the crowd. You have to show your potential that, yeah, I have this potential. I can be used in this particular manner. I can be an asset to your group. So invite me. If you don't have these things, why would he invite you? So it's a very simple thing. If you get like 10 options, you will always choose the best. So you have to show I am the best. Okay, so you need to make good CV, good SOP. You have to show your profile like I have a good profile, I have good experience, I can be an asset. So this could be the second reason you are not getting the reply. Third is poor grade and education. Everyone wants to take a good material, everyone wants to get a good student. So if you have poor grades in education, then there is high chances that you will not get responses. And the poor grade means like 60% is not a poor grade. Let me tell you, grades matter, but up to an extent. It's not that everything is dependent on grade, but you have a relatively 60, 65, 70%, then it is good. They will call you depending on whether your CV is good, your profile is good or not. Another mistake people do is bulk by copy email strategy. You will write one email and send to every professor. They are not dumb. They get hundreds of email like you every day. So if they know you have copied this mail from your friends, or you have sent this mail to 100 of the professors, so if they will see you have not done any homework, you have not seen my profile, you just written I mujhe le lo, mujhe le lo, mujhe le lo, then it doesn't matter. They will not take you. So avoid sending bulk by copy emails. Another is no link with group activities. Another, if you are from atmospheric physics and the person is from organic chemistry, there is no link. Why would they take you? You are unknown for them, right? Not sending adequate email. Yeah, people tell me, sir, I have sent 10 emails, I have not got response of any. Dude, there are hundred of Chinese people who are applying to the same university. There are hundred of Indian people applying to the same professor. There are hundred of other Philippines, Malaysia, Bangladeshis, Nepali, Bhutani, like all these people who are from the Asia, they all want to go to the better place. They all are applying. If you are applying to 10 persons, there is very low chances that you will get the position. So you have to apply at least to 50 or 100 professors, then only you will get a response from 5 or 10. The success rate is less than 10%. Trust me, less than 10%. Okay. Another reason is applying to Ivy League. Okay, I have done PhD, like masters from IIT. Now I want to go Harvard. It is not going to be there. Why should Harvard take you? Harvard will take a student from Princeton. Harvard will take a Princeton student from Cambridge. Why will take from IIT? So just eliminate this fact from your mind that you are going to do in Ivy Leagues. Ivy Leagues means top 10, top 20, top 30. So don't apply in those only. Apply to a broader domain up to top 100 or 200. 200 is good. Up to 200, top 200, you can do. And how to see that list? You can go to the QS World Ranking. There will be a list and you can see where to apply. And funding issues with PI. Many times it happens like you are a very good candidate and he wants to take you, but there is no funding. He doesn't have fund because you are not going to do PhD on your own. You want scholarship, right? So he does not have money to provide the scholarship. So he will not reply you because, so there are multiple reasons. There could be multiple reasons why you are not getting the response. So don't be demoralized from this factor and keep applying. You will get success at one or another point of the time. It might take 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, but definitely if you are a good candidate, you have a good profile, then certainly you will get the response. But there is a catch. A lot of people will see this video and start applying, but I want you to go to this video and see whether are you really want to go. Let me tell you my example. Okay, I am a very friendly, like family oriented person, right? So when I finished my PhD in 2019, I got a job from Japan. So I went to Japan. I stayed there for 1 month and I came back because I have more love towards my family. I am more comfortable in India and I have many reasons for there. So there are a couple of things I have explained in this video. Who should go abroad? Like, even if your mind is there, but are you really comfortable? If you're just going to go and have friendship with white guys, white girls, white boys, then it is not a reason to go there, right? If you're just going for the money, I don't think there is a reason. So you should watch this video. Are you really fit? Are you really ready for going abroad to the PhD or not? So you should watch this video before you go to the applying part. And last but not the least, you can always go and check out my YouTube channel. I have made a lot of videos and I am available on Instagram. If you have any particular doubt, I will not, like, I get a lot of requests like, sir, I want to go abroad. Please tell me. What should I tell? I have already explained everything in my videos. You want me to pre-lecture you for a certain thing? Sir, please give me your mobile number. I will talk to you. Why would I give my mobile number, right? I am already helping you out. I have a job. I have a full-time job. I'm doing my job, right? I am doing this to help you, not to, babysit you. So if you have any particular specific questions, you have any doubt, you can always ping me on Instagram, and I will definitely answer you if the question is good. So for your any doubt, you can always contact me on Instagram, and you can also watch my YouTube videos, so that if there is a doubt, it will be sorted out. Okay, so this was all for the presentation. Now